You guys are watching the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Today's show, with the 2024 NFL Draft days away, some different trade ideas and targets, etc., as requested by my guy Mark, winning the Monday Super Chat battle. Now, if the Cowboys make any more moves outside of the draft, which of course we'll be live for, we will have a video for you. And each week on a live show, the Super Chat MVP gets to pick a segment within reason, of course. So sub so you can get involved on that. Let's talk first trade idea is trading for a back. In particular, maybe the board doesn't fall the way you want it to. How about Khalil Herbert? This is one we've mentioned many a time before. It was actually first suggested by a Cowboys Report watcher, and I'm all for it. I think given the lack of trade value at the running back position, I think a sixth-round pick is doable. Maybe it's a fifth, but potato to a certain extent there. Herbert, as a runner, is pretty good. There's not a lot of great third down value. He's never been very good in that area, but I've got Deuce Vaughn. I've got Rico Dowdle. I've even got Malik Davis, who I think can help me in that area. As a pure runner, there's a lot to like there with Herbert, who is now kind of buried behind DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson in Chicago. A name I'm sure many of you will mention is Dameon Pierce. I think will be a little bit more expensive because there's an extra year on his contract, although it is worth mentioning that Dameon Pierce was bad last year. He struggled. Now, I think he will bounce back. Sophomore slumps are a thing. I think he should still fit that Texans scheme, but if Houston takes a running back before the end of the fourth round, I'm calling them like, hey, they got Joe Mixon and Pierce. They're not going to adding it back there too. If they were to draft somebody in that fourth round, before that fourth round, I would be calling about Dameon Pierce. The bigger name that I've seen some in the Cowboys media world discuss is Alvin Kamara. So two main issues here. I think a fifth-round pick actually might do it. Saints don't have any money, though, which is kind of an issue there. Alvin Kamara has regressed. The numbers don't lie. 3.7 yards per carry, 4.0 yards per carry, 3.9 yards per carry. If we're going to complain about various ex-Cowboys having that production, we can't really call for a different one to come in and be that guy from that perspective. And also, he had 75 catches. He was a PPR nightmare in fantasy, but non-PPR, he was a nightmare for his own owners there because it was all check down crap. It wasn't. It was just swing pass, swing pass, swing pass. Like that was. He's got injury issues, and he's owed almost $12 million this year. So even if you or I were in on Alvin Kamara, which I am not, by the way, Stephen Jones says I don't have that cash available, is what he would say. So if you were to trade for one of these three backs, who would it be? KH for Khalil Herbert, DP for Dameon Pierce, AK for Alvin Kamara. It is the pinned comment, by the way, on today's video. Garett Bolles is our next trade idea. Number 2 segment or idea here, get a left tackle. Maybe you go center early on. I'll go a future fourth-round pick. Make that conditional if you want. I asked our Broncos host what the cost would be. He said a fourth or a fifth. I said, well, I don't have a fourth round this year, so I'll do a future fourth-round pick. Ends up being about the same value there. Is a bit more expensive than what you would like, although I can simply extend him, or I can restructure Trayvon Diggs' deal, and I am set. Or, after this year's draft, I could do it after June 1st, when the Michael Gallup contract comes off my books. So I got some more flexibility from that perspective, and it would give me he's a lot better than Chuma Edoga option on the left side of the offensive line. The 2024 NFL Draft is almost here, and you can get the official NFL Draft hats for your Dallas Cowboys by going over to chatsports.com/Cowboys Draft Hat. That's chatsports.com/Cowboys Draft Hat. The link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. The third little bucket here is, well, what if you took a flyer on a wide receiver? First up is Treylon Burks, the former first-round pick of the Tennessee Titans, the Arkansas boy. Cowboys brought him in for a pre-draft visit. He has not been very good so far. I think a conditional fourth-round pick can go up or down based on his play and snaps and production, etc., seems fair for a team that just paid Calvin Ridley and has DeAndre Hopkins, oh, by the way. Burks is a bigger, I think at his best, he's a big slot. I think that's where he needs to play to maximize his life in the NFL. He has been a disappointment so far. Gamble on a future pick there. Next up is one of my favorite players from last year's draft. That's Tyler Scott, the wide receiver out of Cincinnati. Clearly, I was too high on him. But if the Bears, let's say they take Rome Odunze in the 4th, they don't really need Scott in there as anything more than a receiver 4 or 5. So I'll give him a 6th-round pick for a team that has very limited day 3 draft capital. Scott, he had a chance to make some big plays, couldn't quite bring them in. He brings the speed that this team doesn't really have at wide receiver. And I think I'd rather take Tyler Scott as a day 3 pick than Bub Means. I will take that I had a high grade on last year in Scott. Maybe the Cowboys don't feel that way, but I would have interest. A name that I think many of you might like is Skyy Moore, who I was among this group. I wanted him badly the year he came out in the 2nd round. Ends up going a couple picks before Dallas to the Chiefs. He has not been productive. And I do worry about this, by the way, because what am I doing with a receiver that couldn't work for Patrick Mahomes? So I'm acknowledging that, maybe this isn't the right way to go about it. But I'm trading a day 3 pick here for a guy that I like coming out of college. Maybe this offensive scheme would work better from that perspective. And I think receiver is an area to monitor for this team. I think they're going to give Jalen Tolbert a chance, and they can survive like they did last year if Tolbert is their wide receiver 3. But I wouldn't mind adding some competition from that perspective. So pick a wide receiver to trade for. TB for Treylon Burks, SM for Skyy Moore, TS for Tyler Scott, or comment somebody else if there's a different target you want to go get. Idea number 4, let's buy low on Daxton Hill. I give up my 3rd-round pick. I also get back a 5th-round pick for a former first-rounder who I think would then solidify my secondary for the short term. Daxton Hill's numbers were actually kind of intriguing last year. There were too many blown mistakes in coverages, though. I think that his best spot might be as a nickel corner. And I've only got Jordan Lewis under contract for 1 more year. He's actually had a bunch of contracts with Dallas, by the way, kind of crazy. So I'm going to bring him in. And it gives me some depth at nickel that I don't really have unless we think Eric Scott's going to be a guy at the position. It's a gamble. I'm probably giving up more than I'd like to, but I'm a 4th-round pick. That's why I got the 5th-round pick back. Kind of evens out there and helps solidify my secondary as well. So will the Cowboys make a trade this draft time? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off in the comments. I believe that if he had been on the board when the Cowboys took Devin Harper, he went a couple picks beforehand, I think Malcolm Rodriguez would have been a Dallas Cowboy. He had a very good first season for the Detroit Lions and then got buried on the depth chart. So I will give them a 6th-round pick and give myself a player who at minimum can round out the back end of my linebacker room, or even better, can be a contributing player for me. I like that. I think Malcolm Rodriguez is an under-the-radar trade target that makes a ton of sense for the Dallas Cowboys if you can get the Lions to send them to you. And on purpose here, I did pick several different spots that allowed me to take a pick I would have used on a rookie and trade it for a more proven piece or a more highly drafted piece. I think that gives me more upside or a higher floor than which route I'm going from that perspective. A bonus one. I'm going to dump Nashawn Wright. Dan Quinn, come pick up your guy. I'll take a 7th-round pick for Nashawn Wright. I'm kind of out on him. He's kind of a Dan Quinn pick, which, by the way, Dan Quinn did good things. He was way better than Mike Nolan. I think at times he had a little bit too much power in the draft room. There's a lot of draft misses on that side of the ball. A lot of them. And the biggest one was a guy they thought was going to be a linebacker, not an edge rusher. Just saying there. I would rather give Eric Scott a chance. I'd rather give Israel Mukwamu a chance at corner. So I will part ways with Nashawn Wright, and I will get my seventh round pick to spend on a corner that I'll say, Mike Zimmer, you can have this pick. You take whatever seventh round corner your heart wants in the end.